Welcome to Selling Circular, the podcast dedicated to exploring the innovative minds and ideas shaping our transition to a circular economy. I'm Sabira Lakhani, VP of Product at Repley.
And I'm Gar Punnett, CEO of Loop Layer. We're doing
We
a
are back.
reaction. Yeah, we're back. It
We
was
are
a
back.
it was a lot of energy output for Circularity 25 last week.
Yeah, and it was definitely inspiring. Also, I would say like felt like going home a little bit to like the fam, which was
It's
cool.
weird. I know that's such a weird, cool feeling to have in an industry.
Yeah.
That I hope what we can do here on the podcast is try to bring that to people in their ears, try to bring that to people in a community that we're establishing, but then also help bridge that gap to that community.
Yeah.
And if you ever have any questions, please reach out to us because we would love to help bridge that nervous gap where Sabira and I had to sort of be like, oh, I don't know if I belong. And then now we do. And that's a really lovely feeling.
Yeah, it was great. And there is the feeling of, yeah, like going home, what feels familiar, but also going home to learn something new. And we did new things. I hosted a live stream. I've never
Yeah.
done that
Yeah.
before.
That was,
So that's wild.
you crushed it.
Thank
Because
you.
that was no joke. I mean, you had like an introduction, an ad break, you had quick closeouts of segments that you need to sort of wrap up with a guest. So you
Yeah.
got kind of thrown into the fire a little bit on that. It was fun to
Yeah.
watch.
I was actually reflecting from a career perspective. There was like a hot second. This is a throw
We were
after
like, I can do this.
well, after 9/11,
Yeah.
as like a young Muslim person, I was like, I want to be able to
Oh.
tell stories of Muslim people that like combat the story that's being told about us in the media. And so like I actually got a scholarship from New York Women in Communications to like study journalism and be in communications. And I did not choose that path, obviously. But I was like, this is a
But
fun,
now
cool, circular kind of moment.
we are journalist-ish. We're digging for truth in this
We are
industry.
digging. We are digging. But it was
Yes.
like that. They also
Yeah.
like communications, like those are the people that
That's
are
pretty
like
cool.
on your morning news and stuff and have to do that,
Yep.
be in front of people live. So yeah, it was a new thing for me. So I'm really glad that we had that opportunity. And also we got to tour Tarsus, which we had
Yes.
interviewed Peter.
Yes.
And then
That episode dropped last week, and that was pretty incredible. I mean, that brought a lot of things home to see an in-person operation, the logistics, both from the consumer internally back out, coordinating all the data and information,
for
coordinating
fashion
with
e-commerce, just
yeah,
to,
for exactly. Oh, thank you. Yes, for fashion recommerce, and then to see too the physicalness of both the either stitching a product, mending the product, whatever that might be, and then honestly, my favorite part was it was cool to see the washing tech, cool to see all that. The
yeah.
design aspect of seeing the North
Mm,
Face embedded
mhm.
in Tersus operation.
Yeah.
And for anybody for reference, we did a post about it on the Selling Circular podcast LinkedIn channel. And to see the embedded team there that was making decisions about like
Yeah.
what sleeve could be taken off to put on another jacket or what the dye mechanism or pattern might be. And so it was really cool to see that in person.
Yeah. So we got like some field trips. We got bumping into old podcast guests. We got some
Well, that was
themes,
very
we
fun.
had live stream. We had going to actual sessions and learning and brushing up. And so all of that, it is energizing. It's both draining and energizing. At the end of the day, I would be horizontal and be like, I couldn't go to the dueling pianos party because I was tired. Like I
I
couldn't.
I'm with you there too. I didn't go, and I didn't go because like truthfully I was like I could either be ready for tomorrow and be
Right.
ready full energy or go expend that
Yeah.
energy. And so I went full grandpa mode
Yeah.
and was asleep by probably 9
Go to
o'clock.
sleep. Yeah, I wouldn't even like really eat dinner because I was on EST and I would like eat the snacks at the networking event and be like, I'm done now and I'm just gonna
Yep.
go to sleep.
Well, I think if for people to fully understand, if you weren't on camera, you were also eating. I don't think I didn't see you with a chip, not without a chip in your hand. So I think, that was part of it. There was just a constant flow of snacking. But it was fun. And it was good to see, again, previous guests. We have so many guests coming. that have agreed to be on the show because we got to be there in person and shake some hands and help people understand that we're not insane and that we're just
Yes.
really excited about talking about circularity and circular
Yeah.
economies. We got to really sort of bridge that gap with a lot of folks, and I'm excited about who's going to come down next for the upcoming episodes.
Yeah. And to help us break down our experience and talk a little more in depth, we were joined by the VP of Sustainability at the Trellis Group, Katie Ryan, who is also my co host live streaming. And yeah, we get to get into her perspective of organizing and debriefing a huge event like this. There was also some announcements made, so we talk about that as well. So we hope you enjoy the episode.
And then if you missed Circularity, go check it out at trellis.net, I believe, and you can go check out Sabira and Katie doing the live stream. And so you'll get to go see the
Yeah.
recap.
There are
It's a lot of
YouTube
fun.
links.
There are YouTube links now. Go check it out. Thanks, everybody.
We got to live stream together, Katie, which was super cool. And there were some big announcements. And of course, there was the buzz and the inspiration, as there always is. Maybe I want to get your take on the announcement. First, tell us what it was, and then say more.
I mean, I feel like there's lots of news that comes out of circularity, so I'll do the one that like most impacts me and is exciting to me. But I think we're talking about Trellis Impact. So Trellis, we do three things. We have events, like we were just at Circularity. We have a network, a peer network, Trellis Network, where we get together on a variety of topics. Organizations at large companies get together, solve different problems according to the roles that they are in. And then we also have an editorial team who has great coverage. So there you can get good coverage of circularity. The Trellis briefing is a wonderful, like 5-minute read that comes out Monday through Thursday. It's super quick and juicy. So I love those things. So we have those three pieces that support our mission to enable corporates to drive climate impact. And we are bringing a number of our events together this fall. So instead of having to come meet us at different places around the country and around the calendar, this fall we will have Verge, our climate tech event, and Bloom, our biodiversity nature event, and Greenfin, our green finance event, all together in the San Jose Convention Center. So you can just go to one place. And then the reason that it pertains to circularity is that next year in June, those three events, Bloom, Greenfin, and Verge, we will also add circularity. So you'll be able to come all together, and that will be at the Moscone Center in San Francisco.
How do you feel about it being grouped together with the others? There's like some efficiencies, but also does like the group feel too big? What's your take?
Since we made this decision, it has reminded me of getting to go to Epcot Center and how inherently more boring it would be if Epcot Center was just Italy. And I love Italy, so I could be in Italy a long time. But there's something very cool about getting to experience these other cultures, like cultures in quotes, right? Because it's still Disneyland, Disney World. But that is how I am looking at Trellis Impact, is it's this opportunity to come. Maybe you've come to Verge over and over and over again. And so you come and then you kind of been dabbling in nature. And so you want to grab a couple of sessions at Bloom. Like that's a pretty good bang for your buck. Like if you're going to spend 2.5 days somewhere and you can get a couple of things accomplished instead of just one. I also have big dreams that this becomes a place where you grab your coworker, because you all work on sustainability, but they're in charge of talking to investors and you are in charge of working with your startup partners. And so you say, let's both go to San Jose, go to our sessions, we'll come together. We can join each other's sessions or we can just report back to each other, and you don't have to plan it, right? You can just say like, buy the ticket and show up, we'll be taken care of, and be able to work together. That is my second hope.
I think in that, what I was probably initially reacting to, truthfully, is that feel of loss of identity, of feeling like, oh, but this was our community. This was something where we got to connect. And I probably still fear a little bit that already difficult to connect with peers and people in a location, and that might happen at an even larger rate. However, what I do recognize is, and part of this was thinking through some of the questions I wanted to ask you, which was in thinking about some of the sessions around how we finance the transition to a circular economy, that how appropriate it will be to have green fin or some sort of financial representation at the same conference, and that actually, to your point, might allow for more serendipitous type of collaborations where it's like, oh, I met this finance person here. They had this idea about this. That sparked a whole new sense of what could be possible for the circular economy front to say, oh, this is how we can link up with other types of industries to learn better with each other.
Sure. And then can you come back and be a more valuable teammate? Because you can say, hey, I met the Google ESG controller. I learned this. And you go to your internal finance team and you say, now I can make that connection for you. Or now I know the words to use to get your attention when we are in a meeting together. And we can stop spending 20 minutes of trying to align our vocabulary. And now I just know how to enter that conversation and both of our lives get easier. On the serendipitous bumping in to people, yes. I mean, but that's a focus that I have for every event, is how do I make sure that there is opportunity for people to connect and engage, because we're not an island. Like, nothing will get done when we do it ourselves. And the whole reason that events are so meaningful is because you have all these shared experiences with this collective of people you know and people you don't know, and you come together. And I'm really confident that we will do a good job facilitating. And the people that show up to this event already know that this is what that is about. And if it's your first time at one of our events, like, we will welcome you in. And if it is your fifth time, you already know to welcome people in, and you already know that you're going to meet somebody you didn't even know you wanted to meet. And so you do pull out the chair at the table when you're in the breakout session, and you do introduce yourself to the people in the elevator, and you do say yes to the opportunity to host a live stream with Sabira. You just say yes, because it feels like, well, we've already curated this group of people who are coming together. This is an easy yes. Of course, yes, I'm going to introduce myself, because we probably have something in common, and not just like that we both like dogs, although Superior Dog, I would say, is like probably exceptional on the dog list. But you have something meaty to discuss.
And this was the 5th Circularity. And so now it kind of, I think, feels like an end of an era. Actually, like in my own career, I came back from India and started getting back to work around 5 years ago, and like this conference was taking off, and I was telling Gar that when I first went, I felt so lonely because I was like, I don't know anybody in this community. And this time, especially because of all the podcast guests, we were able to bump into people who felt like family, even though we had never met them before. And I found that so beautiful, and that's very, like, it was so valuable. But I'm curious, it's been 5 years. We're going to continue.
Hold on, wait. There's a ghost in my office, and it's causing this like fire alarm issue. Hold on one second. This is funny because I went on a ghost tour in Denver. So we can, when we run out of things to talk about with the circular economy, although maybe ghosts are like the first example of circular, depending.
Coming back around with unfinished business. Yes, you're right.
It's like there's no end of life. Isn't that their whole
exactly
tagline?
the
Their ghost tagline? Yeah.
Yes.
So how have you seen circularity evolve, and where also do you think it's heading?
There was a real thirst for there to be a circular community. And so when it started 5 years ago, it was a relief and a wonderful place for people to get together who like couldn't find each other. And now it is a place where people continue to come back, or like, well, like wiggle a finger this way, like you really should be here. And it really feels productive. So like one of the things that we were reflecting on for Circularity this year is how empty the hallways felt during the breakout sessions, because people were all in the workshops or in the tutorials or in the 1 hour panel conversations. And in those breakout sessions, people were talking and listening and being and engaged. The keynote speakers, the main stage speakers, were in those breakout sessions. Like, I was in a session and Deanna Bratter, the CSO of Crocs, was just in there, working through things just like everybody else. And those are two really special things that happened this year that feel really good. Empty hallway, people in and learning together, and main stage speakers being a part of the community, the learning community still. Those things are like hopeful, inspiring, feel good.
Did y'all have a favorite speaker? Is that something that's easily recallable? I think I'm trying to think. The other one to that too, the other next question is also the favorite startup that either could have been the one that won, or if there was a favorite startup in the startup competition.
I had a lot of favorite speakers.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to name some of them.
Drop away.
I love Ginger Rothrock, HD Ventures. Sabira and I interviewed her. And she is just one of those, she is that mix of authentic and transparent and like forward motion is what I would most associate with her, is like, she constantly seems like she's on one of those people movers in an airport, just like she's like leaning forward, moving a little bit faster, keeping an eye on what's going around. She's not bumping into people. And she's telling you what she's seeing as she goes. There's been I'm a comms junkie. Like, I love all things communications. I run the Sustainability Communicators Network within Trellis. And the big topic this year is on eliminating jargon.
Ooh.
Because sustainability needs to be very accessible, very clear, very something you can touch. And Ginger is one of those speakers who doesn't speak in jargon. Like, I'm not sure she used any initials, Sabira, when we were talking. And like abbreviations for things. So my favorite speakers are the ones that I want to be like. And if I could be a little bit more Ginger, I would take it.
It's one of my favorite dinner conversations I've ever been a part of, where someone leaned over and actually was like, explain your terms, when someone was using their jargon. And it was like, oh yeah, totally. That makes total sense that we come from different industries. Explain our terms. So yes.
I liked two folks. Errata, the founder of Chip Bag Project, just blew me away with not only her work, but she seemed very calm and composed for somebody who has experienced like a very wild ride of dealing with and like just chip bags and the craziness of a story that she shared with us, that a company dropped 100,000 pounds of Mylar on her doorstep and she just dealt with it and is figuring it out. That to me was super inspiring, especially as working with a very hard to work with material. Overall, that was really cool. And then Dr. Lila June, she spoke about Indigenous history and just how there were cities and very crowded places once upon a time that were very productive and abundant and oriented towards circular, sustainable cities. And I think she was just really eloquent about talking about our relationship with nature, but still being like really practical and, I don't know, forward thinking and sensible. It wasn't just like a once upon a time in history, things were better. She was like, once upon a time in history, things were good and they were not good, and that's okay. And we should be thinking about the same now. I thought she was very practical and sensible about like taking inspiration from the past and helping the future youth and children be excited to be part of our world, and her, specifically her culture too. And I thought that was it was really nice to see that on stage.
I'm curious just to react to Ilada. Am I pronouncing her name correctly? Errata. Sorry. Thank you. I don't know if you all got into it in your conversation, but my job was to support you all and warming some of these guests up. And I was talking to her and I sort of mentioned, I was like, have you done this before? Have you been on camera? And she was like, yes, I have. And I was like, what have you? And I loved, did you get into her her basically her Food Network child stardom, where she was on. Yeah, exactly. I was so surprised. She was like, "Oh, I had a TV series when I was a kid, in my country," and I was like, "That's incredible. Then you're in good hands. I have nothing more to tell you. You just go be you." Yeah,
She was very cool. She was
yeah, she
like
was
very
great.
down to
Yeah.
earth, and I really liked, yeah, meeting with her.
One of my favorite sessions involves, kind of as always, I'm a fan of his actually, is Kyle Wiens of iFixit, and I can always count on him to be very clear in what he's trying to get the industry to do, and the messaging is always clear, and so it was good to, it's always kind of good to see him in person. I recently, again, and this is just for the audience to go watch, is he got to participate in one of the Netflix documentaries recently about shopping and consumption, and so it was cool to see him again in person and sort of be like, that was cool to see you on the big screen, buddy. This is excellent.
Like +1 to all three of your
Yeah.
people. Rada was in another session that I was in, and she was talking about her one of her programs during COVID where you could, for $100, she would send you bags and you could have like a virtual wine party, help make the product. And I just thought, what are you, some kind of genius?
Brilliant.
So it was like, anyway, so cool. And then I also led a morning run for each of the days. And one of our runs, I was running with somebody who is like a iFixit fan and could not believe that he found himself as lucky to be in the same room as the CEO. And I
They have
really
a little
love
fandom.
that is happening. I mean, yes, totally. Yeah.
I was unaware of this until my own younger brother, who could care a lot, but also less about what I do. And as soon as I had with the podcast, yeah, exactly. And as soon as when Sabira and I were able to interview Elizabeth Chamberlain of iFixit on the podcast, that's when Campbell was like, "Excellent, so cool, good that you guys rock." And I'm like, "All right, now I hit something." Yeah. So go iFixit. I mean, the branding, the messaging, it's clear. They're working on something really hard and getting large brands to rethink their relationship with consumers in the way that we can repair. And so that is commendable.
Yeah, repair was a theme that I was glad to see back. I think I noticed maybe like plastics was a little less voluminous in terms of content, more fashion. Fashion was like picking up last year. But there was also, I felt like more money and investing topics this year and some data center topics. Those were kind of like the key themes that I took away when just looking at the agenda. Is like, oh, those are the main things we talked about.
You know what's funny is I already revealed myself as a comms junkie, and we usually have some comms related sessions at our events, how to communicate your strategy, how to handle a pivot, that kind of thing. And in prepping for this year's event, there weren't a lot of companies who were comfortable sharing what their strategy was. And so we did not have dedicated comm sessions. So yes, companies shared parts of their strategy within a larger topic. But that was something that was very interesting to me was, we just talked about it being in the 5th year, really engaged audience, tons of community, like people getting to like a fan status, and still a discomfort with not having it all figured out yet. I struggle when it comes to building sessions. So I build sessions and identify speakers for our events. And I still struggle in identifying sometimes what the topic will be, because I want to go for the jugular. Like, I know what is the heart of the thing that we need to figure out. But if you can't get somebody to talk about it, if I can't get speakers in the session, then it doesn't matter. Which is how comms kind of showed up at this year's Circularity. Did you guys notice that? Are you guys seeing that other places?
I did notice that. And comms in general, I'm fascinated by, because we have our own comm situation with the podcast, which is we can't get a lot of corporate representation here on the podcast because of that lockdown. And kind of, I had this running joke with John Schmeha where where he was able to introduce me to a couple folks where he's like, okay, this brand won't, this brand, oh, go meet this person over here, and took me physically over and said, this person from large brand that hopefully will say yes and come on soon will talk to you. And it was like, and she was like, oh, I'll talk. I'm allowed to talk. And I was like, this is amazing. And so being able to do that in person and break through was fascinating, because so many who I actually, there were 2 or 3 now that were very open with me. They basically said, please send your request so that I will get rejected to talk on the podcast, but it will continue to help me bolster my argument that we should be more public with our strategy and what we're doing. And that was sort of, for me, I'm happily going to send an email to get rejected any day. But it was like, oh, okay, so there is a concerted effort to say, hey, we should be talking about this, but I've yet to get that type of acceptance to talk about that. And so that was fascinating from a comm strategy perspective.
Where I did see somebody talk, or there was the panel focused on it, was Amanda from Monday Creative interviewing Archive, The North Face, and eBay, talking about re-commerce in fashion. And I think my takeaway from that, from a comms perspective, was, are we only confident sharing, looking in hindsight, and not like working things out when they're in draft? But like, that's when we need the most help. But I think, maybe it's this feeling that conferences are a place to show what is working and not to work things out in public, because we're dealing with large brands who haven't really bet on circularity publicly. I don't know. There's just
I agree. I mean, the workshopping is dangerous in many people's opinion. And I disagree. I think it's where a lot of the beauty happens.
Okay. I don't know if we're allowed to digress in your podcast, but
absolutely.
This reminds me of writing Airbnb reviews, which is like, how comfortable are you writing a frank review of the place that you stayed, like knowing the ripple effect? And like, I personally not super comfortable giving less than 5 stars, because that average system is so busted. And so what I have taken to doing is writing like pros and cons note directly to the homeowner, and then saying, would it be helpful if I left you this 4-star review publicly? And they have said no so far, but it's been my get around for, like, I think you should know what's great and what could be different, that I would give you 4 stars instead of 5 stars. You decide, and then hopefully make a choice. But I feel like that is what some organizations are doing, is I am not going to go out there unless I am sure I'm getting a 5-star.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
You guys have your network, right? Like, that's one of the offerings at Trellis. And so I'm not part of it, so I'm curious if some of that workshopping is happening in those settings.
Yes, it's much more of a frank conversation.
Well, and then to that end, it's probably very similar to even that might be behind closed door, but also very similar to what you're going to get when you actually sit down from the person that was on the panel at lunch at Circularity. And it's like, oh, you're not changing what you said. You're just giving a little more context and a little more nuance that you felt more comfortable telling me in person, when you could get the sense of who I was, or the trust that we could establish together. And so I love that Airbnb analogy to that end. Yeah.
Well, one of the other themes or conversations, which I was hearing, like, there was like kind of debate as to like how much we were talking about economic uncertainty, political vibes, and what the state of circularity was going to mean. I think in like the closed loop and like the financing session, kind of one of the takeaways was like, tariffs could help us because now we can be closer in price and cost to whatever program or material we're offering. And you can like use that as a justification that it was going to spur more conversation, like the world of batteries and critical materials and minerals, to think about urban mining more and more. But curious, like, what was your read on the pulse of that conversation, and what it's going to mean for the future of circularity over the next couple of years?
For me, when I am talking to and prepping speakers, I lean on our NGO partners to be the first ones to talk about something political, politicized, controversial, because they have a little bit more space to give the like economic impact of it or the impact over a number of companies, industries versus one person. Like Sabira, you asked a question about tariffs related to batteries to Grayson Shore. And I thought that was the perfect place because I'm not sure we would have gotten, sure. I'm not certain that we would have gotten answers on tariffs. Like it would have terrified people, I think, for us to, I mean, if that's not a headline, I just,
you're just crushing it. Yeah.
I think it would, people, I'm not sure people would have answered. And he was the right person to answer it because of his background as like a global ambassador. But it's who starts that conversation, right? It's like, who's on the first lily pad? And then can I go to the next lily pad? And then you look back and you see, okay, these two people stepped on the first two, so I can get to the third. So I feel like those conversations are going to start with some folks who have like a little bit more room.
Also with Grayson, you can trust he is prepared. And I don't know if he wielded his stat sheet on camera. I didn't see it, but he had it. Yeah. Okay, good.
Pages of stats.
Yes. You know, it's interesting. I've actually seen a lot. I didn't really participate in that many tariff-related conversations, but I saw a lot of reactions coming out of Circularity on LinkedIn or in other sort of posts about tariffs and people's assessment. And one that I thought was really interesting, and I'm going to air it out if y'all have opinions, by all means. It's really the furniture world was one that was interesting to me, where I saw a lot of people talk about what tariffs are going to mean for the furniture world, and a lot of people saying this is a great equalizer. And then in my head I was like, but it's also kind of not, because some of the biggest furniture manufacturers are actually producing here domestically, so it's almost not really relevant. And so I also saw that sort of being wielded in a way confusingly. And maybe that's also just the point of a confusing rollout economically of these types of incentives or disincentives. So that's I thought it was really interesting, where people were just using that language to their ends a little bit. And hopefully what this means is it is an equalizer, or hopefully also in the end, not many people are impacted negatively as well. And I hope that means there's more investment domestically. And to ultimately Grayson's point too, I know he was talking about what that could mean for reshoring of these types of roles and positions that could mean a more solid domestic supply chain of minerals, which could be helpful.
That one's juicy.
That one's juicy and terrifying. So thank you for that. What can you help us understand then from the team's perspective at Circularity, at Trellis? What's y'all's debrief like? What's this week look like? I mean, how do you all go, okay, that was a success. This wasn't a success. What do we do better for next year? A big identity shift in the conference for next year. So there's going to be a lot of shifting. But how do you all sort of assess your own progress and success?
That's so nice of you to ask, because I could geek out on this stuff all day. I mean, I'm lucky that I get to know that I know you guys, and so you ask me to be with you. And, you know, there's an entire team that makes sure everything is taken care of at our events. And I'm just so grateful because they think through every detail. And every time I get on a call with them, it's handled. Like they never sweat. I'm not sure they bring deodorant. They are just out there and they know exactly what to do. And they pick up whatever somebody else has like left behind. So I feel really fortunate about our entire event operations team. They know what they're doing. And you guys have been to our events before, so you also know like there's a difference, right? When things are really thoughtful and thought out. We do a lot of conversations on the ground, and we're making iterations in real time. Like one of the pieces of feedback I got after Green Biz, which is the event that I run in February, was, could you number the tables in the room where people go and meet up? Because it becomes like being at a music festival where you're like, I'm by the person in the yellow hat. I'm on left. Nope, not your left, my left. And so could you just number the tables so I can say I'm at table 22 or whatever? And like immediately that happened for Circularity, which just makes the like finding of people easier. So it's a number of like those small iterations, but we try to make the small things work really well. Um,
I
and
love that because, again,
yeah,
that does solve such a big conference. Part of what I love saying with people who are maybe newer to conferences are those small tweaks are very important, because or else you get stuck in weird like dating scenarios where you don't know what the other person looks like, and you're like, okay, well, I think that's them. And so you have to go introduce yourself and be like,
yeah, yeah,
Jim?
yeah.
And then
Looks
it's
like you haven't
Jim.
updated your
It,
profile picture in
it,
20 years. Like this
I'm
is different.
guilty. Yes, yes.
Um, But I mean, ultimately, we love our events. This is like one
Yeah.
of those rare roles where you get to build a thing together with a team, and then you show up and you experience it and you deliver it together. Like in my past roles on corporate sustainability teams, like it was like a big push to get out the sustainability report or to get this goal approved, and then it gets approved, and then you're just kind of like sitting in front of your screen, like, yay.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
almost like
at
camp as
Circularity,
a
there's
parent.
like dueling piano karaoke to
Yeah.
celebrate with.
Yes.
Yeah. It has like a
So
summer camp kind of
it's
conclusion.
really nice. Yeah.
And to that point, like that finale, there's a finality, there's a seasonalness where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what a great season. Now it's on to the next one and time to prepare.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. And I'm just out of curiosity, when does the preparation start, or does it start the next day? What's the lead time on this? I could talk to John about this too, and maybe Corey, but the team, I'm sure, is like, do we get a week? What do you get when now you're starting to prep?
We get an organizational holiday the day after our
Okay.
events. So that's really very helpful. Um, it is probably 9 months-ish. I mean, I'm talking from the content side. So the ops side, we've like signed contracts with venues
Yes.
a long time ago,
Years.
put in all the processes a long time ago. And it's the starting to meet and brainstorm the topics and figure out what we're going to prioritize and who is the best to bring that to life and which organizations are really driving change and which ones are kind of just like dusting off the same thing they've done every year. So it's about 9 months.
I love that. There's a beat element to that where you just gotta like get back on the beat, see what the people are talking about, where the industry's headed.
I mean, we're pretty lucky. Like this is a pretty great job. So getting to work on the event again is really nice.
Anything we didn't ask you that you wanted to be asked?
Great question. Are you guys reading anything good? What are you guys
Oh.
paying attention to reading these days?
Yes, but usually just in the industry types of stuff. But that's I'm in the thick of AI reading, so I'm doing a lot of that, which is fun because I'm actually really learning how, like, what does that mean for circularity, and so that's kind of entertaining. And so applying a lot of what I think about is how do you sort of break down unit economics when you're talking about return of things in the reverse. And so what AI means to labor is going to be twofold. One, hopefully it will decrease the amount of labor associated with getting something and returning something from a documentation perspective. But then also, hopefully, because it might decrease the cost to document the return or create more processes or decrease the process, it means we can increase the amount of maybe unit economics allowed for somebody to do something with their hands to make something better. And so that's a lot of what I spend my time reading and thinking about of costs. So and trying to think about the reverse of that. Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
the
to
fun
read
stuff.
100 Years of Solitude, but I have not made it far.
In your post travels, what are you sleeping with it, or is it just?
It's just there. I'm
It's
not
just there.
I'm not even touching it because there's a Netflix show that
Yeah.
came out. I'm not getting to it. It's just a me problem.
You're not a problem.
Well then, no, never. It was really fun. I didn't catch all of what you all were able to do on the live stream. So, but when I got to catch the last bits of it, and you guys did a great job. So it was fun to see you guys. Sabira, it was great to see you live. And sort of you guys got to really, I think, meshed really well with some of those guests in a way that just made it breezy, made it light and informative. So well done.
Katie,
Sabira, you brought it.
No,
Okay,
you-
there you
You
go.
brought
Just
it.
Just
Good.
point the fingers. Yes,
We don't know how to take compliments.
that's good. That's good. That's humble. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for the time here.
Thanks.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Go team.